Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco, and Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Hubris.
Hubris
Describes a personality quality of extreme or foolish pride, or dangerous overconfidence, often in combination with arrogance. Today, many business experts see overblown leadership egos as one reason companies fail or stagnate. Authors Bill Treasurer and John Havlick cite hubris as the lethal executive flaw in their book, The Leadership Killer, Reclaiming Humility in the Age of Arrogance.
Age of Arrogance.
In the words of Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is.
So why are we talking about hubris? Well, you're going to find out here in minute 8 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Mr. Jon Favreau. And joining us is the man who is the opposite of hubris, Mr. Andy Nelson from The Next Reel.
Oh, yes. Hi, welcome back. Glad to be back.
Right? Not used to being the guest, huh?
I know. My world is upside down. What's going on?
So we are here talking about Tony's big entrance. So he has just landed on stage. His armor has been removed, and the Ironettes have done a big elaborate dance number around him. And as the minute begins here, they have sort of surrounded him and aimed their quote unquote repulsors at him. So they all have like glowing lights on themselves, and they show it to the huge thing of the crowd. And so we were talking about like how much of this crowd is actually real crowd. And so as we get the shot from the stage, we can see a lot. Like there's a good at least 10 rows of real extras there who are there that they're not clearly not CGI people, because some of the people in the crowd even have Iron Man sort of party favors, like they've got lights on their hands and things that they're shining up on there. So clearly something that I'm sure they were selling, because Stark Expo's got to make some money some way.
Well, of course. And can I just say, like, if this was real,
for anyone who's ever taken a kid to the ice capades or Disney on Ice,
of course, this is exactly what this is. Okay, but let's just say as the Ironettes end their segment here. That whole thing where they have the repulsors on their hands and they raise them up, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
if you were going to say, yeah, we're going to make an over-the-top crazy spectacle to introduce whoever the person was, that's amazing. That detail and the whole way that's done, I absolutely love it.
That's really cool. Done. Yeah, the costumes are great. I mean, it ties in really nicely with Iron Man. It works, and it fits Tony Stark and his ego. And but it is weird how they do their repulsor thing at him, and then they just completely cross their arms over themselves.
Yeah,
to walk away.
it's unusual. If you watch it again, they all cross their arms over their chests as they leave. It's a very odd pose. Yeah. So the choreographer for this was Ron Kellum. So maybe we need to find out from Ron, like, what was the thought process behind that?
I'm waiting for the credits to occur when you bring Ron on to talk.
Yeah.
In great length.
So Ron, tell us about the Ironettes.
I think that's I think it was just an artistic thing. Like, okay, you've got these characters. What's a way to make them leave where, okay, and you can imagine you're seeing it from the backstage perspective. Mm-hmm. What does this look like from the audience?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of women in
who have no arms because their arms are.
Well, that's unique. That's different. Artistically, I think it's the exit is not just walking off stage. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
What do I know? I'm not a choreographer.
Can I bring something up that I think is strange?
Please.
In this moment? So this is the Expo, the Stark Expo, and we have this huge screen behind Tony that says Stark Expo. And I just feel like there was not strong communication between the CG team or the graphics team that was designing the actual Stark Expo image that's behind him. Because on that, we have a yellow Stark and a yellow X in the word Expo, and then the E, P, and O are white. On all of the physical banners and everything that's kind of hanging up everywhere, it's a yellow Stark with a red X. And I'm just like, were they not communicating with each other? Because it just seems like, and who knows, maybe it's one of those things where, the X is going to be a different color depending on what location you're in the Expo. So keep an eye out as you guys continue watching the rest of the Expo scenes. If that X changes colors depending on where you are. I'm really curious now. Or if it's just a production design mistake.
Eagle eye.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Really
it's like you've done this
good.
before.
Holy cow!
I saw a lot of Iron Man before. Yes.
This may be a situation. And I'm gonna wing it here.
Yeah.
This may be a situation where, okay, so you have secondary logos, and it makes sense that red and yellow would be the two colors because Iron Man's colors are red and yellow. I'm wondering if maybe when I've done work actually with live events like this, that what you find is that for the television cameras, printed material will play differently than the projected graphics. And so when they do that, they'll work on that to use those alternative logos because they know that stuff is going to project differently. And looking at this, I mean, you can see this from his screen, that background, the way that's playing, and even the way the motion graphics are moving around it. The all yellow, I can tell you right now, would look better than the red on the screen behind him. And again, I'm just making that up. But that's the thing that totally screams out me is that when they, if you're the production person on this event, you would do the screen test and you go, yeah, you know what, the red's not working, let's switch it out, and that's why they would have the secondary color. Maybe because that has happened to me before.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. So I am curious though about that. So strange things that you end up noticing.
Oh, so we have Robert Downey Jr.'s then first line as the Arnettes are leaving, and he's clapping for himself or for them. We'll say them. He says, "It's good to be back," which is a nice little meta joke because it's a sequel, everybody.
Right.
So we're going to have a couple of those sort of meta jokes as we go through, but also true. So, but the other thing is, what's RDJ been doing since then? So there's always been this thought about that the Iron Man was the movie that brought him back. And that's not really true. I mean, that's sort of the lore. But if you look at his IMDb profile, he was working pretty steadily. Now, he wasn't a leading man, but he was very much a successful working actor even before he booked Iron Man. Iron Man is what put him into the top tier. But it wasn't like that he pulled him from obscurity. He wasn't just sitting at home and then got Iron Man. He had been appearing in all kinds of things. But then now he's suddenly one of the top 10 actors in the world. But so between Iron Man and Iron Man 2, he did Tropic Thunder, The Soloist, and Sherlock Holmes. So he was definitely cementing his lead. And the nice thing about Tropic Thunder is that wasn't even a lead. I mean, he was like
he wasn't a lead, but it was definitely a big part that allowed him to really do something unique, and it got tons of accolades for him.
That's
right,
got
an Oscar nomination for
right,
that
and people are still talking about Tropic Thunder, where they're not talking about The Soloist much. So
no, but it is interesting actually to look at that list there because The Soloist was definitely kind of more of a smaller drama that he chose to do. And so if you just look at that list, there's the big broad comedy where he's doing a performance in blackface through the entire film and it works in some strange way. Then he's got kind of, I mean, it's not indie, but he certainly has kind of a quieter dramatic film. And then he's going into another huge kind of genre direction with the Sherlock Holmes and kind of creating a whole new franchise over on that side of things. I shouldn't say he's creating. He's recreating. He's becoming a new version of the character who has been around. I think Sherlock Holmes, I believe, is the character who's had more screen incarnations than any other.
I think you're
screen
right.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's number one and Dracula is number two. And Tropic Thunder obviously is where he crossed paths with Justin Theroux, who is the one who wrote this movie. Also, I thought this was unusual, and this is something I want to bring to you guys, so sort of presenting my evidence here. One of the things that's also in his list of things that he did is that Robert Downey Jr. was the voice of the Iron Man video game released for PS3 and Xbox 360. I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate or not, but I tracked it down and I pulled off some audio of it. So this is about I'd say about 30 seconds of a dialogue scene between Pepper, not being played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and so I'm curious if you think this is actually, so the credits say that this is Robert Downey Jr. doing it, and I'm curious to see what you guys think of it. So let me play this for you.
Okay.
Tony, what's happened to you?
Pepper, listen. I never should have made it out of that cave. Now I know what I have to do.
I don't understand.
My life's work, everything I've built, countless lives ruined by my inventions. I have to destroy them.
You can't do this alone. It's too much.
I don't have a choice. Make sure Roby does what I told him. He'll need convincing. Look, I have to go on a business trip.
What trip? There's nothing on your calendar.
Just came up.
So
that pepper is horrible.
yeah.
That line.
Well,
what are you going to do? Like, wow, geez, wow. You know, he sounded like RDJ at the beginning, and then when he his voice he got intense for a moment. I'm like, oh wait, no, now he doesn't sound like him.
Because it's credited as someone else plays the voice of Iron Man, but he is credited as the voice of Tony Stark, and that was a Tony Stark scene. Like, it's a scene in Stark Industries where he's talking to Pepper Potts. So I would assume that they book him for that, and then total over the course of the cutscenes is about an hour, but then all the rest of the stuff of we need to make sure we destroy the reactor so that the aimbot doesn't get to the. I mean, that's another person. They just put the sort of distortion over it so that it can be a little different thing. But I'm not sure. I listen to it and I'm like, it's sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's his inflections. That's exactly what it is. And then sometimes I listen to it and go, hey, someone's doing a really good impression of him. I can't really tell.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It sounds like him at the beginning, like the first line, but then it gets weird. My prediction would be is that recording was done very early in the morning or very late in the evening.
Very possible. And it's going to be they had him for one day.
Yeah,
and he tried to do it all, because if anyone who is fans of video game voiceover artists know that their hours are unbelievable. Like the amount of things that the hours and hours and hours they're supposed to spend just standing in a room doing the hits. Ow! Ooh,
yeah, right.
It's not a glamorous job. But I don't know. I'm not sure. So you can judge for yourself if you want to go. If you don't have an Xbox 360 or a PS3, you can fire up. If you go to YouTube, people have put compilations of the videos. You can just watch the whole video game through, and so you can judge for yourself. I don't know. I'm saying I'm not coming down one way or another. It's just I found it very interesting that's listed on his IMDb profile.
He did not do it on the VR game, the PlayStation VR.
Yeah, I say.
I'll tell you that much.
Since then, I can tell you that he is not credited for any other Iron Man voiceover work. So the other thing interesting I found in doing my research is that the Stark Expo actually had a website at the time, starkexpo2020.com or 2010.com.
Not 2020.
Not 2020, yeah, 2010. It is defunct. However, due to those brilliant geniuses over at archive.org, you can pull up a saved version of the site and look at it. Not everything is clickable. Like there's wallpapers you could download, which sadly you can no longer download. But one of the things I found when I was going through it is there actually is a letter from Tony Stark written to everyone attending the Stark Expo. So I'm going to read you this letter that Tony Stark has written to this. So this is from the Stark Expo 2010. I did it again. The Stark Expo 2010 website. So it says, "Hello all. When I got back from that cave, I told you what I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to make weapons anymore. I never told you, however, what I was going to do. This spring, I am proud to announce that Stark Industries is relaunching the event that embodies the spirit of better living through technology, the Stark Expo. Stark inventions were first displayed at the World Expo in 1941. Everybody? 1941. In 54, my father returned to Flushing Meadows, Queen to show off the new tech he used to defeat global tyranny. This was the first ever Stark Expo. In the decades that followed, my father invited the world's greatest minds to contribute to the Expo and put to task corporations to create better living for all. When the 1974 Expo closed, we lost that glimpse into humankind's amazing future. And now, it's an honor to continue the legacy of dear old dad and reopen the Expo to explore the technological wonders that will enhance lives everywhere. Please join us on May 7th to experience the exciting world of tomorrow today at the 2010 Stark Expo. Sincerely, Tony Stark."
Nice.
Wow.
It has his signature on it too. Like they format it as an actual letter that you click on and the image comes up and you look at it.
That is cool. What could you see what else was on the site?
Almost all the other links are dead.
Yeah.
So there's like 4 or 5 links that they take, but there was they're very little. Like there was the map is no longer there and things like that. But it looks exactly this. And as you were talking about the layout, the letters on there are orange. So the Stark and the X are orange.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let me amend my comments from earlier. Different designers, different. You can only do so much for consistency across a massive project involving multiple teams with multiple deadlines.
That's right. However, the Stark Expo 74 logo, which we're going to see here in a future minute, is consistent. Like it looks exactly the same. It's the
Right.
Stark Expo, the sort of the 2010 one that's the
the mess, yeah.
And Rob, you'll get a kick out of this. A lot of the reason that you can't look at this stuff is because everything ran on Flash.
Oh, those days.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So like there's a huge section in the middle of the page that is like, you need Flash Player 8.
Oh, yeah. No, that's all. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so we'll get back. Tony's obviously beginning his remarks, and when you said it's good to be back and his whole story, he immediately then gets heckled.
Yeah.
Right.
And, somebody yells out, blow something up. And I got to say, as much as, and obviously the main part of this is hubris that we're going to talk about, but this speech also just has these incredibly slick responses, both in this minute and in the next minute. And his response very casually is, well, I already did that. And I got to say, that's a wonderful, like, if you want to see the art of dealing with hecklers, that's it right there, right? It acknowledges what he said. It closes it. There's no retort to that.
Right.
Like, there's not going to be anything else said. It's very, very polished, very stylish on Tony's behalf.
Yeah, I think you only get one more, right? The "I love you," and he doesn't even respond to that one.
He doesn't even respond to that, right? No, I thought that was neat. I mean, again, and what's the point of that? Well, it's showing you, first of all, it's revealing, as if you can't already figure it out, Tony is a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And not only is he a rock star, he's debonair and he's got it all together and he knows how to respond to any given situation in the perfect way possible that we can see, unless he's with Pepper in the back of a plane in a toilet. That's a different story. But
That didn't happen.
But yeah, I mean, exactly, it didn't happen. No, but this is just, again, I mean, you're immediately getting this whole view of who he is now and where his attitude comes in. And then he just goes into this ridiculous, hubris-filled diatribe of these, I don't even know what you want to call them. They're, the humble brag. It's the humble brag of saying what you want to say, but trying to say, but I'm not going to say that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, yeah, yep.
This just is totally ridiculous.
Yeah, that whole reference to being the Phoenix. Never has been a better reference to the Phoenix being reborn personified.
In human history.
In human history, yeah.
Well,
like,
and
okay,
again,
Tony.
with this repetition of, I'm not saying, but yeah, let me say it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, but one thing he says is, I'm not saying the world is enjoying its longest period of uninterrupted peace in years, thanks to me. Wait. 6
what?
months is the longest
right?
period of uninterrupted peace in years. Like, how bad has the MCU been in the 2000s?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and that's even the greater hubris, right? Like, leaders who can't remember what happened 30 days ago, and they talk about it like as if it's been a year. This feeds into this. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
There's people who live like this. So yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that he is, and this is kind of another jump into the future of the show, but he's talking about, bringing world leaders together and stuff and all this like greatness that he's promoting here. But it's also, well, I feel like, actually, am I jumping into the next minute? I think I'm jumping into the next minute now.
He does end. It does end with the Uncle Sam reference, and then that is the end of the minute.
And
but,
then, actually, it ends with a weird, a weird line, which is, I haven't come across anyone who's man enough to go toe to toe with me on my best day.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
If I was a supervillain,
right,
I would want to go toe to toe with him on his worst day.
Right.
Just, FYI for any supervillains out there.
Just in case, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's funny that, he is like referencing world, like bringing everybody together in the world. And it just made me kind of chuckle that he's like, oh, he doesn't know anything about Wakanda yet. And just like all the things that they will be bringing to all of this at that point. So,
that's a fantastic reference. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, and that feeds into the whole hubris of this, the arrogance that he knows everything. He's got all the answers. He's all powerful. Yeah. We'll see what happens with that.
All right, cool. So that wraps up our conversation about minute 8. But if you want to keep the conversation rolling, you can do so over on Discord. That's right. We have our very own Discord thing. You can go to nextreel.com/Discord, join the conversation, and we have Also, we have our own dedicated Marvel Movie Minute channel where you can pop in there and notice if there's something that we missed or something you were hoping that we talk about. You can put it up in there. We're popping in from time to time, so we look for you over there. And also, it's free. So thank you all for joining. That's right. It's the best deal going around. So thank you all for joining us for minute 8. We'll be back here for minute 9 as our Tony talk continues. So thank you all for listening. Enough said.
Bye.